Good evening, Jesse.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
I can hear.
Okay. Yeah, give me a second. I got to figure this out.
You're gonna call John from downstairs and later on, or take my phone so it don't ring.
Still ring, I don't have it.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna sit there and work on those hats for a few minutes.
That's fine.
Do you need the light on?
I don't know. I don't think so. Okay.
Dick, do you have your camera on?
I thought so.
Right. It may just be the meeting.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know how to turn it on or off, so it was on the last month, so.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's still on. I don't know.
All right. Started. Okay. 7:04. I didn't start the last meeting. Is the normal procedure just to call the meeting to order officially? Is that the proper procedure?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I'll call the meeting to order. And with that, I'll take a roll call. So Jesse Allen here. Warren Herzig.
Here.
Joe Pasquale.
Here.
Dick Porter.
Here.
Roger Passavant.
Here.
Melissa Greenbacker.
Here, Zergot.
Oh, Zergot, sorry.
Yep.
Alfonso Catarano. Not present. Okay. So with that, there would be no seating of alternates, correct? That would give us a quorum.
That is correct.
Correct. Okay. It's easy. Next would be approval of agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of that?
So move.
Second.
Second, all right. Agenda is approved. I will make a note, and maybe it's too late for that now. On the agenda, I did not include. Do I have to have approval of prior meeting minutes on the agenda? Because it is not there. Anyone?
My answer.
We could amend the agenda.
Okay. All right. Do I have to make a motion to amend the agenda?
Yeah, somebody will have to make a motion and second it. And
Okay, so I have a motion to amend the agenda to include the approval of prior meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
Okay. Motion passed to amend the agenda to include approval of prior meeting minutes. So with that, we'll move on to the approval of prior meeting minutes. So if everyone takes a minute, we can go through. They were emailed out earlier today. I did not get a chance to read them yet, so I'm going to do it now.
No, my phone.
All right. After everyone has a chance to go through them, if there's an emotion to approve, please do so.
Motion to approve the February 2020 minutes.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion passed, approving the
Oh.
February.
Jesse, you have to actually hold a vote.
Oh. Oh, yeah, true. Sorry. So just remind
Just
me.
say all those in favor.
Got it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? And abstain?
I abstained because I wasn't here at that meeting, so I don't know if the meetings are, I assume the minutes are accurate, but I wasn't there, so I'll abstain.
Okay. Motion passed to approve the February 18th, 2020 Agricultural Commission minutes. All right. Let me check the meeting room here, or the waiting room, just to see if anyone is actually in it. All right, there's no one in the waiting room. So I'll assume at this point there's no public comment. Okay. All right, next, I included on the agenda just the continued discussion of the draft regulation. I know Joe had sent out another version. It was indicated it was the final version a couple days ago. I don't know if everyone had a chance to go through that. But if we want, we can spend some time kind of going through this. I did attend the planning and zoning meeting when they first discussed our feedback, our letter. I put a letter together. I know I CC'd all of you on it. They did read it in its entirety. And I'll say the general feedback was half to maybe a majority of the people that commented agreed with the acreage being higher than 5 acres. You know, they, in theory, supporting our 25-acre recommendation. So that's kind of the feedback I got for our biggest item that we were kind of pushing for. The economic development on the flip side was supporting the 5 acres with the stance, I believe, to, you know, get a lot of potential investors, opportunities into the town, and then allow the planning and zoning commission to, I'll call it, filter through them to determine, you know, what would be eligible for a winery, brewery, cidery, distillery, with the current regulation in place. And that kind of was the stance across many of the folks that were supporting the 5 acres. And I believe, Joe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the 5 acres is still in the final draft, correct? I don't have it open in front of me. I'm going to open it now.
Yeah, it's still in there.
Yep. Okay.
And on the, if I could comment on the economic development side, they chose not to put a paper together collectively from the EDC So the only one that really spoke in favor of the 5 acres from the EDC was Janet Morganti. And I believe there was 3 people from the EDC that expressed concern about the acreage. One of them was
Lindsay Herzig was one.
Lindsay. I think her name is Peggy Bascom,
Yes,
and
No.
then Cheryl Salva.
Margaret Bascom.
Oh, yeah, Maggie Bascom. Yep, sorry.
And just so I'm clear, Joe, are you say, I know those people, I remember them commenting. Are you saying that they are on the EDC?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, all right, good to know. I didn't know that.
Joe, would you agree with what Jesse's saying, that you thought at least half the commissioners were of the opinion that it should be more than 5 acres?
Oh, I didn't mean the commissioner, sorry. I meant during the public comment. I should have clarified that.
Oh, sorry, Jesse, because I was actually of the opinion that I thought that we definitely had P and Z. We were definitely, I thought Joe was the only one that was really in favor of more than 5 acres.
Well, I think Dick Erickson also, well, he had expressed concern.
Yes.
Good point. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right, Dick.
You know, didn't the Planning and Zoning Commission learn anything from their dealing with the special event regulations in terms of consulting with ag and economic development before they put these regulations out, and consider talking about it with the various commissions, and that way we could at least understand where everybody was coming from?
Well, I guess I'll speak from my perspective. I think you made a very good point that night, Warren, about the commission's approach to new regulations. Whether it'll have any impact, I guess time will tell.
So I will say, his name, who's the commissioner of the P&Z, Frank DeFelice. He did reach out to me after I provided him the link to the minutes for the last meeting and congratulated me for becoming the commissioner. And I responded back thanking him. I did informally reach out and say that we'd be more than willing to further discuss. I just specifically cited the acreage requirement again, since that seemed to get the most attention, and that we'd be more than happy to work with him further on that, to kind of continue to give our feedback, why we did it, why we think it is what it is. And so I didn't hear anything back yet, but I did informally reach back out to him on that.
Well, that's good to know.
And I'll continue to do that going forward. I wholeheartedly agreed that, our collaboration with these commissions only will result in a more, well-rounded, more robust, regulation. So I'll continue to push that, and eventually, I hope to kind of get more involved, or at least us being involved more in terms of being reached out to help out. So that's my 2 cents.
I hope you have better luck P and Z and the chairman than we've had with them in the last 2 to 3 years, because I truly, and I said this at our last meeting, find that any of the comments we make fall on deaf ears. And I have to be honest, without being negative Nancy here, when Frank read into the record the letters from the Regional Ag Commission and our Ag Commission, and I believe he read another letter in at the last P&Z meeting, I found that there was positivity in regards to the letters he approved of and negativity in regards to letters he disapproved of. And he definitely did not like your letter, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the letter said everything we want. I mean, right off the bat, we led with that. We fully support, obviously, this regulation. We just had some recommendations. And I'm not saying 25 acres is, the final end all, what it should be, but I still stand by the fact that I think 5 acres is too small. And I was asking, some other folks and just getting some more feedback. And they kind of step back, and the way they look at it is, do we want to be a town that has 1, 2, maybe 5 of these facilities that, are well established, have a lot of acreage, have a nice facility that can house, a good number of people in private areas? Or do we want to have a town that has, 25 to 30 of these kind of tucked away in, certain areas that maybe aren't conducive to the type of business, and, you kind of flood the market versus, not flood the market and create a higher demand? And almost everyone agreed. But that was just a small population. I was kind of polling informally. So I still stand by the fact that it needs to be a higher acreage. Maybe it's not 25, maybe it's 20. I don't know, but 5 is too small. So.
Joe, do you feel that the Planning and Zoning Commission will put more specifics in the regulation to give guidance to potential applicants, or is it going to be guess with the Planning and Zoning Commission on what we want?
My gut tells me the latter.
It's unfortunate.
Yep. I don't think there's much willingness to change what's there already. It's unfortunate. And well, I guess I'll say it. I mean, to me, leadership of anything and everything is important. And people follow leadership, I guess, if they so choose. And it seems like that's the direction that our leadership on the commission is driving, and everyone else is following.
Being somewhat of a, I'll call it noob still here, what in the past, what has been some things that have influenced the P&Z Commission to change, drafts that maybe have been pretty far down the road? I'm assuming a significant turnout of public comment has some impact, but is there other examples of things?
I would say that P&Z changed with the new leadership. I don't even know how many years ago that was, Joe. You'd have to answer that question. I think, honestly, when Chairman DeFelice took over, I think the whole P&Z changed. And they are definitely, I think they're trying to draft this regulation so that it is as broad-based and as wide open as they can. And they're basically telling us to trust them that, anything will go before P&Z and they will stay on top of it. And I don't know that they're going to do that.
I don't either. And that's one of my fears with being so broad. And I understand some of the reasoning, to provide our community with opportunities for economic development. But then again, concerned that even one of the comments that was made by Josh Edinger when we started discussing the building setbacks, and there was an example of a patio, and he just said, and I think it was an existing patio even, that we just tell them, no, they can't use it. So, and I don't think as a planning and zoning commissioner, speaking for myself, I mean, you don't want to be in the business of turning down applications. You want to be in the business of approving applications, and especially ones that, are helping with economic development in our community. And I think that us being so vague it doesn't, personally to me, I don't see any benefit from a business perspective that vagueness is helping them. I think it's going to be more of a hindrance to them, because if somebody goes and buys the wrong 5-acre lot or 6-acre lot to meet the minimum, and then comes in and proposes a plan, and they could end up failing. And I don't think that's what we really want to be doing. It's either that, or we're going to be approving stuff that we probably wouldn't otherwise be approving. Maybe people are going to feel pressure. Well, we said you could do it on 5 acres. Well, it really doesn't, maybe it's close to one neighbor and we should have a larger setback, but because it doesn't work, there'll be a chance that things that shouldn't be approved may be approved.
Are you familiar? I wasn't too familiar with the survey that was conducted. I know they read the results. What was a bit of background on that?
Oh, that was a survey that was just sent out to the planning and zoning commissioners from the first public hearing. So there was, I believe, 5 questions. I could go back and once somebody else starts talking, I'll go back and I'll look on my phone and pull them up. But the intent of that was to, from Robin, to survey the planning and zoning commissioners and then tabulate the feedback, how to progress with the draft regulation as far as acreage, setbacks. There was one about defining cafe. So was the reasoning behind that. Let me see if I can pull up that email.
The reason I ask was, and I don't know if we are in any position to do this or not do this, but utilize media to conduct a survey. Obviously it would be sponsored by the Agricultural Commission, but it would allow us the ability to kind of feel out the general public. I know a couple discussion boards on Facebook that do tend to migrate towards gossip and some negativity sometimes, but they do have a large number of followers. It's 3,000 or 4,000, I think, at this point. So it's a pretty significant population of people that could provide, I think, a good data set as to how the general public feels about this regulation. And I would have to draft up some questions and keep it simple. Whether or not we use the data after we get the results, we can, address that in the next meeting, but it's just an idea.
I actually think it's an excellent idea based on the fact that with what the Dunhill Road crew has been going through in regards to the commercial kennel for the past 3 years. I think if you were to put something out to a group of 2,000 or 3,000 people and say, how do you feel about having a winery, cidery, or brewery on a 5-acre parcel next to your house that could truly be 75 feet off the property line? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to
be right on the property line.
That is true. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'd have to be what I'll do is I'll put some questions together, and then obviously they have to be vetted because I don't want to put something there that's not true. And at the same time, I want to make sure that we're, indicating that we obviously support this regulation. We just, we have these questions, and I'm not even going to address that we have a concern. I'm just going to word the questions appropriately to get the data set we want from the public. And then it is what it is. Okay. I'll keep it short and sweet, no more than 3 or 4 questions, but it will obviously get to the heart of the regulation and kind of let us know that where the public's steering towards.
It's probably something
only-
planning
the-
and zoning
the
should have
only-
done right in the beginning.
I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Go ahead.
He said it was something that we should have done from the beginning.
No, I said the Planning and Zoning Commission should have done something like that in the beginning.
Right. And to Warren's point, I only support this if we're protecting our neighbors. And if we're not protecting our neighbors, then I don't support it, I guess.
Well, I mean, most agricultural operations, at least speaking for myself, are very concerned about neighbors. I mean, we've had our instances in the past, whether it be noise, odors, when we started working, but, you know, we've worked with our neighbors. They understand what we're doing. And I think we have a good relationship. And I think with a brewery or a winery, I mean, those people are going to have the same types of issues if they're not careful. And you need to have some room around the place that you can accommodate some of those issues.
Oh, I agree, Warren, with your comments, and I think that this type of activity is certainly going to be much more intensive with the interaction, I think, with neighbors than any other type of agriculture we have today in our community.
Agreed, Joe. And, you know, I think that's the point where the Planning and Zoning Commission should have been reaching out to us to discuss some of these issues. Because, I mean, I've dealt with it several times at the farm here with our neighbors. And, you know, I think over time they understand what's been going on, and most people have had a good relationship with us. But with an intense commercial operation like a winery or brewery, I think we're just looking for trouble if we don't have enough space around them.
Yeah, and the comment that was made earlier about the survey and surveying the people of the town, and I guess I've said it before, so it's not news to anybody, and it wouldn't be to anybody on our commission or leadership in this town, that it seems that they're afraid of the public and they don't want to engage the public. And if we did more public engagement at all levels of activity in our town, I think we'd be a lot better off engaging the public in the very beginning of the process and get an understanding for the tolerance, and then start to move forward with it after you kind of have a feel of what the tolerance level is for the particular topic, and then start moving forward and creating regulations or plans. Or, I mean, I think that we've done it with the school, we've done it with the safety complex, we do it with kind of with everything we do. We tend to, you know, put the cart before the horse and don't engage people in the process early on. And
So
I
have
did.
to I have to ask the question, are you the only one on that commission that feels that way? Because we spend a lot of money on litigation that probably wouldn't have to be spent if they did that, if they engaged the public before these things happen.
Can you say the beginning of that again, Dick? I didn't hear it.
I asked Joe if he was the only one on that commission that feels that way, because we spend a lot of money on litigation that we might not have to spend if in fact they engage the public prior to making these decisions.
Yeah, I guess in some ways I feel like I guess I stand alone in that regard. And then I guess it goes back to leadership, and leadership, if the leadership doesn't want community involvement, we're not going to head in the direction of getting community involvement. And you know, people are tendency is, you know, be afraid of change. And I've always commented to the commission members and to Laura Francis, the Board of Selectmen, the Economic Development Commission, the meetings that I've attended there, and I attend quite a few of theirs, that anybody that participated in the charrette, the visioning session that was done at the firehouse, people, I think generally enjoyed participation in it. And it was a good, healthy environment to get a basic understanding of where we are and what we're doing. And those type of events, I think the community would like to participate in those type of things and have some voice and say. And I mean, even the vendor that did it, Fitzgerald and something was the name of the vendor. They could not believe the amount of response and turnout from our town doing that event. They've never had such a high number of turnout with any other town that they did.
Do you remember the number one thing they supported?
Who's that?
I'm just asking, Joe, do you remember the number one thing they supported, the community supported at the charrette?
Was it agriculture, Roger?
Damn
Yeah.
Skippy it was. It was agriculture.
Yep. And lowering taxes. Yep.
So to Jesse's point, I think he's got a great idea of going out there and surveying the community as to how they feel about agriculture and adding these kinds of entities. And I'm all for these entities, as Jesse said, as long as we're protecting our neighbors.
Yeah.
I mean, the Planning and Zoning Commission are still with, dealing with that dog kennel. Did they learn anything from that experience and they're ready to jump in this fire?
I guess
So, and for those of you that don't know, I was helping fight the dog kennel for 2 years, I think. And Joe will even tell you that the dog kennel dates back 30 years. And we were able to prove it. We found documentation in town hall that proves that P&Z was looking into the dog kennels 30 years ago and they did nothing about it.
And that's in regard to changing the regulation because of problems that had occurred 30 years before.
So if they're not going to change the dog kennels, I think to Dick's point about litigation, we're going right down the same path again.
And I mean, with the dog kennel, all you needed was 5 acres and you could have your dog kennel.
Jesse, I did find the survey. I can go over it quickly.
Okay.
The survey was, what minimum acreage would you prefer? And it was there was 3 questions in that. Minimum acreage of 5, minimum of 10, no minimum requirement. The response from the commissioners was 70% in favor of minimum of 5 acres, 20% minimum of 10 acres, and 10%, which I would believe is probably one person, said no minimum requirement. The next question, what percentage of ingredients need to be, need to be grown on site? The 3 questions were same as Connecticut. That was 50%, no percentage required, nobody, and keep the phrase a portion of, and that was 40%. And she didn't show the comments. The 3rd question was defining working farm. 70% said yes, 30% said no. The 4th question was define farm cafe. 80% said yes, 20% said no. Set different setback requirements than allowed in the underlying zone. 30% said yes, 70% said no. So those were the questions that we were asked as planning and zoning commissioners. So Robin would have a feel on how to modify the draft if indeed she needed to.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
So Jesse, I don't mean to be rude, and I know that I'm the troublemaker on the commission, so I'm just gonna shoot my mouth off. I think we should actually get the addresses of all of the P and Z commission members and find out what the acreage of the properties are that surround their properties. Because I would bet you not a single one of them has a 5-acre parcel around their property. So therefore, they have no concern that this is going to be next to them.
I have a 5-acre parcel next to me.
Yeah, but we know that you're on the other side, so. Sorry, Joe.
But one of the other questions you might want to ask is, we had discussed it in I believe our last meeting, was that going from 10 acres to 5 acres, I believe there was 3 of us that wouldn't qualify if we went, maybe that's one of the questions we want to ask. So how many of the commissioners qualify for it?
Are any of the members going to abstain from voting on this because of a conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest?
I would say no. I don't know.
I mean,
None have done it so far, so I
if
wouldn't
somebody
think.
has a 5-acre piece and that's what's in the regulation, they got a vested interest there. Potential.
Well, yeah, anybody that's got over 5 acres has and myself included, is potential.
If I move forward with this social media survey, do I have to, let's say I get the questions together, I'm going to give best case here, tomorrow, and I get them vetted, meaning, like, does P&Z, how do I say this? Can these things informally happen behind the scenes, or do I have to use the vehicle of a meeting to get this survey out into Facebook, let's say, or do I have to wait? You know what I mean? Like, do I have to use a meeting, or can I just do it in like 3 or 4 days and get it out there? As long as I get, let's say, Frank to say, yep, those questions are accurate, and you guys say, yeah, I like those questions.
Well, why would you ask Frank?
Well, I don't want to put something in there that is not accurate, meaning it's not representative of the current draft regulation. Frank can't, I mean, I'm all about full disclosure, and in a way I kind of want them to know I'm putting the survey out there because, we can do it irregardless. And it's something I've spent my entire career always having to benchmark off of other things or survey employees before I ever did any kind of significant change in a company. And I would expect to do the same here. But I just wanted to run it by him to make sure that I was wording it properly based on the current regulation.
Can that be discussed tomorrow at their public hearing?
I was going to suggest that.
That would mean
No,
I have to do.
I also think that the question can be very broad-based, which is there is a draft proposal before the Planning and Zoning Commission in regards to breweries, cideries, wineries, distilleries. They are discussing acreage. Your Durham Agricultural Commission has concerns with some of the acreage requirements. What are your thoughts? Do you want 5-acre, 10-acre, 25-acre?
Yeah, I get your point. And I could actually just copy and paste right from the regulation verbatim, right? To not bring up the risk of me wording something, improperly or not doing it,
Yeah.
the way.
And as far as the acreage, you could, in the draft regulation is 5 acres. Do you feel 5 acres is adequate? Do you feel 10, 15, 20, whatever, and list a bunch of options for them to pick?
Yeah, okay, I like that. So what I'll do, I'm going to go through it tonight. I will highlight 3 or 4 areas that will ultimately drive a multiple choice question that'll give them, several options. And I will email it back out to you folks to get your approval. And then I will figure out how to do this, which can't be that difficult. I just have to figure it out. I'm not a Facebook expert. I might need your help, Dick.
You might want to ask one of your kids.
Should we pose some sort of question in regards to separating distances?
What was that, Warren? Something about the setback distances?
Yeah, should we, in the questionnaire, should we pose some sort of question as to what type of separating distance people would like to see?
Yeah.
From their property line.
Exactly, because
Yeah,
right
so
now-
what I would do is I would paste in the current line that is, I'll say it, rather open-ended slash vague, and then for the multiple choice, I would give them, 3 options saying, are you not worried about, any setback? Would you require, a 50-foot minimum setback, or would you require greater than 100-foot setback? Something like that.
at one point in time, they did have 100-foot setback for parking areas and the building for the facility. All of a sudden, that disappeared.
And to Warren's point, the setbacks might truly be more important than the acreage.
Yes.
Yes, I do agree there. Yes. Okay. Let me get something together, and then we may go through a couple iterations, but it'd be great to kind of get it out by the end of this week. Joe, what's the schedule for the voting on this regulation? Like, when's the soonest it could happen?
Tomorrow night.
No.
Sorry, Joe.
That's okay, Roger.
All right.
Yeah, and I was gonna make a comment, but I lost for the right words, that when we bring it up tomorrow night, that's gonna cause a delay. And God forbid we delay. Maybe some people will think there's value to delaying, to wait and get the feedback. Others, to me, are gonna want to push forward and approve the thing tomorrow night. I don't think it's wise, but
All right. I'll bring it up tomorrow night and just say that we are getting our ducks in the row, hoping to get a public survey sponsored by the Agricultural Commission out to Facebook, social media, specifically the Durham and Middle. Well, see, it's a Durham and Middlefield discussion board. I'll have to just direct it. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's just a public polling to get feedback on potentially up to whatever the subscribers are. I can say 3,500 subscribers. I'll find the exact number. It's a big enough number where it would be interesting to see the response, why they would not want to wait for that data set. Because that's how many people live in Durham? 7,000, 8,000? So,
yeah, around
Yep.
7,500, 7,600.
so we could at least get 25%. At least 25%'s got to be on that discussion board. And there's 2 of them, actually. I could send it out to all of them.
Joe, what is the commission's position or take on the portion of ingredients that has to be grown at the facility?
I thought that came out
It's
and
still
was
on there.
changed and was, hold on one second, Warren, let me go look.
Well, there's
I thought you had read 80% of the commissioners thought 25% of the product.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, and where 25% of the ingredients are grown on site or in conjunction with a farm property located in the town of Durham.
Which I will, not to have a side topic, but they did change the wording on that line, which I know we had brought up, and Joe, you were going to bring up, that the site that would be in conjunction also has to be a farm property, meaning both properties in that relationship would have to be farm properties.
Yeah, the wording, in my opinion, definitely needs to be changed or needs to be taken, stricken out of there.
Oh, I guess then, are you saying that I was saying it looked like they had changed it already, where it says in conjunction with a farm property located within the town of Durham. Before it said in conjunction with a property located within the town of Durham.
I'm reading farm distillery or grown, it says ingredients are grown on site or in conjunction with a farm property located in the town of Durham.
Yeah, the old version just said property, didn't say farm property there. I think. I could be wrong.
But well, for me, the issue is or.
Oh,
Because-
yeah. Yep.
Because what it's saying is that I could have the vineyard on my property and I'm not going to grow anything. And I'm going to grow my grapes over at Rogers. And to me, my operation has nothing to do with agriculture. I'm just selling a product.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is creating retail activity in a residential zone. And I'm not doing anything with agriculture. Roger is.
Yep. Agreed. Okay.
So has Robin reached out to the town of East Hampton with their brewery there, the Fat Orange Cat? Because I thought there was some issues with that when that first started up. And I'd like to know what they were and if we could learn anything from that. I know I tried to reach out to the zoning person I called yesterday, and I haven't heard anything from him.
Well, as far as I know, she has not.
So Frank had brought up at one of the P&Z meetings at least a year, maybe 2 years ago about that one, which was, I guess it's at the end of a cul-de-sac and that they ran into a major parking problem.
Yep.
Yeah, they were parking all over the streets. It was turned out to be a very successful endeavor. But the parking and the neighborhood was not happy with how successful they were. And I guess that's one
the
of
problem, at the neighbor's expense.
Yeah, and you, of course, I mean, everybody wants them to be successful, but you want to make sure that their success is, like you said, not impacting the neighbors, and that they've got room to grow.
Okay. Well, let me give it a shot. I will speak at the public comment tomorrow and mention, are we comfortable with me mentioning that we are pursuing a public survey? Agricultural, obviously, is the theme, but we will be citing specific things from the regulation to get the public's, general stance on it.
Yep.
Okay.
Should we make a motion to that effect?
Okay. Do we have a motion for
I'm
me
just
to?
asking, should we?
Oh,
I don't know that it's necessary, but it doesn't hurt. So I would be more than happy to make a motion that Jesse should speak in public comment tomorrow night at P&Z in hopes that he can thwart off an actual vote tomorrow evening by letting them know that the Ag Commission of Durham wants to actually do a survey in regards to what our community thinks about it.
All right, do we have a second for that motion?
I will second that.
Okay, all those in favor for me to speak tomorrow to discuss that we have concerns and that we are pursuing a public survey? All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Okay, motion passes. I will not prepare any questions for that survey. I'll say that it's still in draft because we won't have a quick enough turnaround for all of us to approve it and go forward that quickly. Okay. Any other? Do we want to talk anything else specifically about the regulation? Okay. Next item on the agenda is any old or new business. I guess we can address the old business first, which makes sense. I'm just bringing up the minutes. I would like, one of the old business items I can speak to right off the bat is the agricultural tax exemption. The last we had spoken, I had indicated that I received the data from the town. The specific data set was, can we get all farm properties in Durham? And please run a query that includes these building codes, since then we thought that was the best indicator. And because those building codes would be the buildings and structures that could be subject to the tax exemption. Knowing that the data query would not have anything that showed a property as a farm versus not a farm, because we wanted to pull as many properties as possible to show the maximum impact that this tax exemption would have, knowing that because it's the maximum impact, it is very likely that the final tax impact would be less, if not significantly less, than what the data showed. I will say that I did get a few moments to go through the data. I will need a little bit more time because I am not familiar. I'm just bringing it up on my screen now. They ran every property over 5 acres. I didn't think I asked for that, but they did, and they ran it for all building codes that could potentially be farm related, meaning barns, sheds, and I don't have all the specific ones in front of me. And what happened was the total value is $3.2 million. 70%, of that value is roughly $2.3 million. And with the mill rate brings it down to an $81,000 tax impact. So that's what the data set shows. Now, I just quickly scanned it. The reason I say I need a little bit more time is they have like pools on here. They have the building code for a pool. Clearly, I would assume that would be removed since that's not for agricultural use. So I would only expect the 80,000 to go down further. And again, our assumption is that not all of these are structures used in active agricultural. So the range, would be, we can come up with that number after we go through it, but that's kind of the current state of where I'm at right now. Just want to make you aware.
So I don't have my dad's numbers in front of me. Does anybody remember what his original number was for tax loss?
It was like 50 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I have it right in front of me. Yeah, not as organized. I want to say it was close to 50 or 60,000 at the max. So this brought it up a little bit, but again, it includes pools. I don't know why the pool code was in there. And so my guess is it's going to be pretty darn close to what we originally had said. And then we were just going to say, hey, listen, the impact could be anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000. Do we want to go forward with this?
So we're still at 0.2%.
Roger, I think your dad had 54,000.
Yeah, that sounds right. So what I would recommend I'd be done is Warren had put together a letter. I had put together some slides. I had taken Warren's letter, and this hadn't been shared back with you guys yet, and just put in a little bit of my data. I would update it with this data set and then send it back out to you guys, and we could quickly scan it and then distribute it onto whomever we wish to distribute it onto.
I would think the next step would be to appear before the Board of Selectmen to discuss it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think now might be a good time. We all got the notice about the reevaluation being done starting in June or July. So if there's information that maybe the Board of Selectmen would like to have gathered while they're doing the reevaluation, the timing might be good.
Agreed.
Yep.
I also think the timing is good because of just the general, overall economic pain. Maybe some farms are failing because of everything going on and restaurants closed, and there may be more of an appetite to provide some kind of tax relief for those types of businesses.
Might not get a sympathetic ear from some homeowners that are under pressure too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think there's going to be a flip side to this where our revenue stream from tax generation could be impacted by what's going on with people not having the ability maybe to pay their taxes.
True. Okay. I didn't realize there was so much homework with this gig here.
Why do you
Roger.
think we nominated you?
Clearly, I was one of those secret meetings happened before the meeting where I wasn't part of it.
Melissa was the head of that one, huh, Melissa?
I didn't do any near what I should have.
Okay. Is there any other old business? The Durham, I'm just going to quickly go through the items I know I had some involvement in. The Durham Grown website, I have not pursued any further progress in that. My next step was to kind of dust off the existing form that's on the website, to poll the town's farms to see if they want to be included on the website. The form allows them to include their name, phone number, websites, anything else they want to put on there. So I just, I'm a little bit behind there, so I would need to get going on that. So that would be all the old business that I had involvement in. Anything else people want to talk about? The last thing was the Farm Summit, which I'm assuming is on hold.
No, they had the farm summit in Portland. I think it was in the end of February. And there was probably 50 people there. And they had 4 stations. Elizabeth Moore from American Farmland Trust was at one station. The gal from the Department of Agriculture, I forget her name. She heads up the grants, was there, had another station. Alan Furlow, who is a brewery guy from Portland, he had his station, and Janice Elmeyer from the Regional Ag Council was there with another station. And people kind of just went to the various stations and asked questions. I was surprised that there was that good a turnout, and it was good to see that Portland was trying to support its agricultural community. On another matter, I reached out to Laura about filling Fred's position. And I guess we have to fill his position because he was an R with another R. And Bob Miller has a D after his name. So I guess two options, and I guess I'd have to contact Kim Garvis in terms of how long it takes to switch the letters if one desires, because I think there's a time frame. Laura thought it might be up to 3 months. And the other option is to wait until December, and we could have him come on as his current affiliation.
So last time I talked to Kim, she actually told me you can change your party affiliation every day.
That's what I remember, Roger.
Yeah. So, I mean, much to my, and I almost fell over when she told me that. So I'm glad Joe agrees with me. So, if Bob Miller is truly interested in being on our commission, I think the Miller family is amazing. I would be more than happy to change my affiliation from an R to a D, or from an R to a U, to make sure there's room for him to be on the commission. Because I don't give a shit what letter goes after my name.
Well, I think it's up to, he has to be an R to fill in for Fred.
Right, but I thought the last time I spoke with Kim, she said we had very equal. So is it because he's replacing him during a term?
Yes.
Oh, that's just silly.
But to your point, Roger, if someone did switch, then the vacancy would be something else.
Why don't I call Kim and get it from the horse's mouth in terms of what needs to happen, or maybe contact Bob first to see if he's still interested?
I would make sure Bob is still interested, and then I would contact Kim, because God knows Kim and Alicia know more than all of us, everybody included, put together.
Okay, I will do that.
The Guilford Road property, I
Yep.
noticed somebody was there. I don't know whether it was you, Dick, or not, but somebody was in there mowing on the west side of the brook.
I think that's Jason Stone. He bought the farm there. Slice place. I think he's been mowing there, enlarging his yard a little bit, making it look better. I'm not positive, but I think that's his been doing.
That's his yard on town-owned property.
Well, it's all the same thing, It's all, there's no fences. So I think if he wants to mow, we should thank him and let him continue mowing, because that corner of the property looks better than it's looked in a long, long time, ever since there were actually cows in that barn.
There's a number of those property owners that have kind of extended and made it look good.
Yes, I agree, 100%. What we still need to do now that it's drying up a little bit is get some of those invasives out of the brook. Roger.
Might want to wait until after first cut, though.
Well, I think we're gonna have to now. It's up pretty high now. It's up foot and a half now.
in that regard, I did happen to see Skip probably a month ago, and he asked about that. And I said, probably do what you did last year.
It wouldn't change anything, it's not broke.
Okay. Any other old business folks want to discuss? If not, we can move on to any new business or new items folks want to bring up.
So if
Yes,
nobody
I'll
else
bring-
has, I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Roger.
So if nobody else has any new business, I think everybody knows that I've been a little cranky about how the Zoom thing works. And I think you guys all know that I'm not a big fan of technology. I've been promoting the fact that we should, in my opinion, try to figure out how to have our meetings on the town green with appropriate mandated social distancing. And I truly believe that agriculture has always been the foundation and backbone of the town of Durham. And therefore, we should be in the forefront of helping Durham navigate through these troubling times. And I'm going to ask all of you, my fellow commissioners, to support this motion and to keep agriculture at the forefront of our community. So here goes a motion that's going to put you guys all on the edge, and I'm hoping you'll support it. I move that the next Agricultural Commission meeting of the Durham Ag Commission is held on the town green on Tuesday, June 15th, 2020, and that the Ag Commission will supply chairs and purposefully space them 10 feet apart for obvious social distancing purposes. We would strongly recommend that the use of face coverings if those in attendance feel that those face coverings are necessary.
Second.
And as a follow-up to that, I just want to add one thing, that Phil Auger spoke last night at Board of Selectmen, and they approved a meeting of the Conservation Commission. So I'm of the opinion it's time to move forward, and let's do it safely, let's do it responsibly, but let's move forward.
So
I
I
already
just,
seconded it.
Warren Herzig seconded it.
What would you do in the case of rain?
I'll
Somebody's in a rain outfit.
bring 2 easy ups, and if somebody else could provide an easy up, I'm on it. And I apologize, I wasn't sure, did Warren second it or did Dick?
Dick seconded
I think Dick did.
it.
Very nice. So now I'm looking for a unanimous decision.
So, hey, Roger,
Yes, sir.
Phil Auger was having it at Allen Brook, correct?
Correct.
And maybe their thinking was, to Melissa's point, weather. And if you meet at Allen Brook, you have the pavilion. If it rains, you could still be under the pavilion.
I would be more than happy to amend my motion to make it Allen Brook rather than the town green.
I
did
was still second.
Did you at one time tell me that, and I'm only getting, because I got that email, right? I just so everyone's aware, not everyone was on my email, but I reached out to Laura and Alicia and whoever else was on the Kimberly to say, hey, can we have the meeting in person on the green? And they said they're going to get back to me because they were having a call with some kind of executive order review. And they got back to me and said, per executive order number 7B, you know, all meetings had to be held via Zoom and audio. Do we fall under the umbrella of regulation of 7B? I know nothing about this. And I thought you, at one time, Warren said that, or Roger said that we weren't part of that.
So originally, when you and I chatted, I thought municipal government meetings were exempt from the original 7B. And then Phil brought up something last night in regards to 7 00 or 00 and 7H. And they have approved a meeting for the Conservation Commission Thursday night at Allenbrook.
Okay, so just so you're aware, I pulled it up. Just a little bit of background. Executive Order number 7B prohibits gatherings of 250 or more people.
And that's the one that Laura keeps quoting, which is 7B.
So that's I guess so. Yeah, they're saying that there's always the risk that 250 people or more could show up at the ag meeting.
We'll take that risk.
I could show you the minutes from the last 5 years, which states that one person at the most shows up a year.
Yeah, so I think we would have enough data behind us to show that the tendency would be to not have that many. All right, so go ahead.
But if we vote to do this, then do we have to go to the Board of Selectmen to get it approved like the Conservation Commission did? Why did he go to them to get it approved?
I don't know the answer, but I guess what I would do is I would ask Jesse if it was okay to have me post it tomorrow as an agenda item to start the conversation to see if Alicia or Laura reaches out to me. And if they do, then I will say that, you know, we're looking for the same permission that you gave the Conservation Commission.
And we have enough time because they're going to meet again. The Board of Selectmen will meet again before we have our next meeting. Probably twice. Well, maybe, well, once for sure.
Okay,
Motion on
so-
the table with a second.
All right, so all those, well,
Technically, you're supposed to ask for discussion.
Which we already had.
so what's the final motion though, that you're going to reach out to the Board of Selectmen to see about having the meeting, or you're going to propose an agenda with it on there? What's the final motion?
I'm making a motion that we hold our next meeting at Allenbrook Park on June 15th, 2020. We will use appropriate social distancing.
Yep. Okay.
And all safety measures will be put in place.
Okay, so all those in favor of having the next agricultural meeting at Allenbrook Park with all of the, you know, guidelines that Roger mentioned, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? All right, motion passes that we will propose to have our next meeting at Allenbrook Park with appropriate social distancing guidelines in place for both the commission members and the public.
Thank you.
All right, any other new business we want to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to mention the Economic Development Commission had sent out a survey townwide. Don't know if any of you guys took it or not, or gals. And there's going to be I guess a Zoom meeting on June 4th to go over the results of the survey. And I guess when I looked at the questions on the survey, they seem to be a little slanted to me. And but one of my observations was in the survey, it had about industrial, commercial activity, but nothing about agriculture in the survey. But I just thought I'd mention it to anybody that was interested. There's going to be a meeting on June 4th to go over the survey results.
Is the survey still active or is it closed at this point?
I believe it's closed, Jesse.
Okay.
But I'm not 100%.
Oh, was it an electronic survey or was it?
Yes.
It was, okay.
Your wife probably got it, Roger.
She throws that into my email, which I can't find.
Do you even have your own email address?
She throws my crap into whatever, I don't know.
It's
It
trash.
is pretty, it is trash and it's pretty scary. 'Cause I'm actually now using computers.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Check that
Yeah.
out. All right, anything else folks want to bring up? All right. So just to summarize quickly, I'm going to put together those questions we discussed in parallel with the, with the approach I'm going to speak at the meeting tomorrow, but I'm still going to work to get those questions out this week for the survey for us to review. And I will get also back to you with this week with a number that I'm expecting to be very close to the math your father did, Roger, on the agricultural tax exemption, and I will update my draft of Warren's letter with my amended information, and I will share that as well for everyone's review. And that's all the homework I got for now. So. All right. So with that, I guess motion to adjourn. I can't make the motion. Does someone else have to make it?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Being adjourned at 8:19 p.m.
Jesse,
Oh, all those in favor. All those in favor. Sorry.
oh, whatever.
Yeah. Nay. Abstain. All right. Meeting adjourned 8:19.
I was about to say, I think, Jesse, you're doing a hell of a job.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse.
Very nicely done.
Thanks, Jesse. Good night.
All right. Well, maybe next time I'll see you at Allenbrook.
Oh, you will see us at Allenbrook.
All right. I got to go. So have a good night, everyone.
Good night,
Stay
everyone.
healthy, all.
You too.